This is an art class by Splash, a youth arts workshop. In this video, we show you how to make a drawing in ink.
Hello everybody. Today we are going to be drawing with ink, and we're going to experiment with ink pens. And so there's a couple of things I want you to think about first. And I'm using these micron pens, which have different point sizes or nibble sizes. And so I'm going to start with the number 8. And so I want to show you the techniques we're going to use. And the same techniques that we use with pencil. First, we're going to use hatch marks. Notice with the pen, if I turn the pen at an angle, it won't make a mark. So my pen has to be straight up and down. So these are actually drafting pens. So hatch marks, we'll be using this technique, hatch marks. We're also going to be using crosshatch. You start off by using hatch marks, and then you cross them with hatch marks. And every time you cross, you can do just 2 hatch marks, or you can do 3. You always change directions. Or you can do 4. Every time you use a different direction. Okay? Of course, in the actual drawing, the hatch marks would be very close together like this. And we're going to use lines. This is called crosshatch. Use this mostly for shadows. We're going to use line variation. The way I vary this line is I start off with a little pressure, then I lift the pen and barely touch the paper. If I want a thinner line, I go to a different pen. I'm using my number 2 pen. I'm doing the same thing. You can see it's thinner. So that's all that we're going to use for now. Oh yes, we may use, I doubt we're going to use this today. But let me label this line. You can use Pointillism. And Pointillism is basically using a lot of dots. I may have spelled that wrong. I've never written that word before. This can be used to define surfaces like concrete, or you can do an entire picture with nothing but dots. And the closer the dots are together, the more the picture is shaded. The further apart the dots are, the lighter the shades become. So that's an entire drawing style. The value of drawing with pen, and what we're going to do today is we're not going to use pencils, we're only going to use pen. And the value of doing that is it increases your eye. If I want to draw, let's say, a vase, it trains your eye. So if I want to draw, let's say, a vase, I have to actually see the vase before I draw it. So I see the vase here invisible, and then I trace what I see in my mind. So we are drawing with our mind. Okay. The more you draw from life, and we've done a lot of that. We've done a lot of exercises where we draw from still life objects. The more you draw from life, the easier it is to draw from your mind. We get to a point where we draw from life, but then we change it to suit our own expression. So what I'm going to do today, let's draw a profile. And what I want to do is start by we're going to draw a profile. And I'm going to start with my thinnest point, my smallest point is, no, not the 0, 1. I have a double 0 somewhere. 005. That's my smallest point. So by starting with whatever the smallest point you have, then you are sketching. But what I want you to do is you're going to contour the sketch. Do a contour drawing. That's the outline, remember? You can go back to some of our classes, drawing classes, and you see what contour drawing is. And that's why I encourage kids to not miss classes, because when you miss classes, you fall behind. Well, so in my mind, I'm imagining this guy's ear is going to be here, and his eyes are going to be around about here, so his forehead is going to start here. And this is like a Greek statue. So I'm going to contour the forehead. See how slow I'm drawing? Then the brow goes back in and down. I'm thinking about where the eye is. Then this is Greek because this person's going to have a skinny nose, straight nose, long, straight, skinny nose. Then the nose turns back under. See how it's like a contour? Top lip comes out, folds back under. This is the lip, proper. The bottom lip comes out, folds back under. Then the chin comes out and rounds. I didn't want this chin to be so large. Then it comes under the jawline, like that. Now, I like to, there's space between this point and where the eye starts. And you really have to just kind of get used to where that space is. One way to do it is to start with the eyebrow. I'm going to draw a line for the eyebrow. I'm going to arc that line over like that. And then I think for you kids, what will help is if you start from right underneath the chin, not here, eyelid, then the bottom eyelid is almost straight, but there's a slight curve. Underneath are the tear ducts. There's a line that comes straight down and then folds under a little bit like that. The top eyelid, I like to bring it out a little bit, then turn back. Then I'm going to show where the brow folds back under to cover that top of that eyelid there. I like to start here to know where I'm going to end, but you could start, it may be easier to start here, the point that you left off, and let that line curve around, but don't let it meet. Curve back around. And then the eyeball is a circle, so it's sort of like a half moon. Okay. Let's go to the nose. I'm going to draw the nostril. The nostril is like an oval, curves around like that. You can't make it too big. You have to think about what your nostril looks like. And then where the nostril meets the face is sort of like a backwards C. Now the mouth where the lips meet, there's a line that comes back like this. Notice my lines aren't straight; they're curved. They curve. You won't hardly see a straight line on the face. And I want it to end, the mouth to end like right underneath where this tear duct is. So I drew a line almost straight down. You could draw it straight down or slant it, but straight down where I think it's going to end. See how I curved that a little bit? So if I put my ink pen here, you see something like that. You have to judge how you want it to look. The top of the lip curves around. See that little bend there? And back here. So I increase that angle. And the bottom lip comes back around like this and meets there. I didn't want to just draw that. I wanted to break that line up a little bit. The ear is usually, if you measure from the eye, the bottom of the eye, to underneath the chin, this point to that point. And what I'm doing is, as you can see, I'm using my finger to measure this. Let me put the top on here. So this finger here, I'm going to place this finger right on this line here, see? Now I take and put my finger here, the corner of this eye. This point here would be the back of the ear. So I just put a little tick mark there. I need to decide how high my ear, how tall my ear is going to be, how far up does it come. So I'm going to let it come up a little bit above the brow, about right here, above the brow. How far down will I let my ear come? I'm going to let it come to about where the nostril begins, to about right there. Now I can draw the ear. There's a curved line, curved like that, and then there's a little earlobe right here. Now I can complete the jaw, which comes down underneath the ear. And by the time you get to the mouth, the jaw bone begins to turn in. And so you have an angle that goes down to the neck, but you also have an angle that comes to about right here, that goes to the chin. So this is the space that's underneath your face. And since this is a Greek statue, I'm going to put some curly hair, some little curls are going to loop like that, like this. Kids, when I say Greek, there's a place, a country called Greece. And in ancient Greece, they made statues. I'm doing the ear. Let me do the ear before I start talking too much. This space here at the top of the ear is wider than this space on the side of the ear. And that line comes down like that. Then there's a line that comes back like this. Watch this. And curves over like that. You can touch your own ear and you'll feel that. And then there's a little triangle right in there. And here's the little part of the ear. What's that part of the ear called, Anthony? This little part.
What's that?
This part here.
Oh, I can't remember.
I'm not a doctor, so I don't remember what that's called. I didn't know I was going to draw this face until right before we started. Then I'm going to draw the sideburns here. Okay. Now, if I had sketched this in pencil first, this would be better. But I didn't. So, c'est la vie. Like I said, this is good practice for your eyes. So now we have the face. Let's go ahead and draw a curved line for the pupil. And let's put a little circle on here somewhere for where the light is going to hit the eye. So this is like a, it's not going to actually be a Greek statue. It's going to be like a person. But in ancient Greece, in antiquity, they created what they thought was the statues of what they thought was the perfect human being. They actually worshipped people. They worshipped humans. And they had many gods. They had gods like Neptune, which was god of the sea, and many different gods. Venus, god of beauty, goddess of beauty. Anyway, but they worshiped the beauty of mankind. It's kind of like how people worship people today, famous people today, really. I don't see no difference. So now let's do some cross-hatching. And I'm going to start with a, I'm going to go medium range, and number 3, 0-3. I think I'm going to start with the ear. Those are hatch marks. I'm not digging into the paper. And there's the shadows that come around like this. When I go back to crosshatch, it gets darker. Number 3 is pretty, it's a pretty broad or wide point. So I'm going down and see what number 2 does for me. You might want to, anyway. Now there's, inside the ear, there's going to be shadow. So I'm going to do hash mark. Then I could leave it like that, but I want to, I'm going to come back with a cross hatch. See how it gets darker when you cross hatch? I'm going to come back again with another cross hatch. I'm letting the pen slide across the paper. I don't want to dig into the paper. Now I'm just going to do some hatch marks to show shadows here. And I'm going to cross hatch. I'm going to follow the shape of the lobe of the ear, so the light is going to be falling from on top of this face. And I just want you to see how the hatch marks can give you volume. I'm going to lay this pen down, number 2. I'm going to put it there so I don't forget which one I was using. I'm going to stay with the number 1 and 2 for a while. This area is still flat. So I want to flatten this shape and make it round off. Okay? So I'm going to draw some hash marks in the direction that I think that my eye is seeing that shape. And sometimes your pen will be old, well used, or it may have paper on it, but I have something on the point of my pen, so I'm just going to wipe it off. I prefer to use a cloth than paper. Then if I draw some more hash marks lightly, that'll lay that down a little bit. And I'm going to let some shadows fall down here too, in the ear. So there's not, I don't want it to be as dark as that shadow though. So my point, I'm running out of ink, but I'm still going to use this pen. Until the ink is gone. I'm going to actually push this part of the ear back with just some hash marks. So you see how I'm trying to define some shapes? I'm going to let some the shadow of this person's hair fall over the top part of the ear. So the lines I'm making are sort of uneven, but I don't mind that. And it's uneven because I'm running out of ink, but I can kind of use that right now. So I don't mind it. But usually you would just put the pen down and get another one. Get another pen. I have another set like this, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather just go up to the next size pen. So there's shadows falling here, so put some hash marks there. Now what you should do is, if you just work, if I scroll, that's okay. It's, you know, I would suggest don't scroll. When I say scroll, go from one side to the other. But I think I can keep up better with what the light is doing if I don't scroll. And I'm just going to go to another area that I want to work on. Maybe the eyelash. Put some hash marks there. I may go back with cross-hatching later. I want this part of the face to fall, the light. I want to see the light here. But I don't want to see so much light in this area. That's pretty bright right there. Okay. Can't change the light because my eyes have to adjust. So there's not going to be much light hitting underneath this brow. So I want to accentuate the darkness underneath this brow so that you can see the landscape of the face. I'm going to make my lines close together and curved. The shadow. I'm going to shape this shadow. It's going to be triangular. Now I'm going to crosshatch because I do want this dark. I may go back with a wider pen later. However, I want the transition from here to here to be smooth. So I'm going to do some hash marks here. Now I have to make a decision, and my decision is I'm going to go ahead and do some cross hatching, and I'm going to go to a different pen. I'm barely touching the paper because I don't want this area to be as dark as that one. I hope you're seeing how we can use cross hatching. I'm going to bring some of this hatching down. And notice I'm cross-hatching in a different direction on this shadow than I've used before. I'm going to do the eye. I'm not going to talk too much about how I'm doing the eye right now. Let's just make the eye sort of black. I'm going to do a double line here. I'm going to make this line darker. Let's put some hatch marks here. I'm still using my number 3. I'm going back to a number 2. And I'm telling you, when I'm changing pens, so that you understand that you can change pens or change pencils. If you're using pencils, you can do the same thing with a pencil. Again, when you practice with an ink pen, it will increase your skill with a pencil. I'm barely touching that. Let's just draw the eyebrows in. I'm just laying my hatch marks down close to each other. I want to bring this nose back some, I think. It's about here. I'll bring that back. I'm going to make the nostril wider. I'm using my number 3. Now I'm going to draw some hatch marks here. Now this is what I did. When I brought the nose back, I left a line there, and it was more important to me to bring this nose back than to worry about that line. And I think it's because I have my own way of drawing, and usually with my drawings, I have a lot of lines anyway. And this nose is cast in the shadow. So I draw these hatch marks in the direction that the shadow is cast. The lip goes back this way, so I'm going to draw these hatch marks. Like that. I made these lips larger than I wanted to. But, okay, Sarah. I'm going to change this nose a little bit. Now remember, this is your picture, so you do it any way you want to. So whenever I want to change something, I'm just going to change it. That's the shadow of this top lip. Remember, the light is coming down like this. So we're playing with shadows. This technique is also used in intaglio printmaking. So if you want to make some really nice looking prints, practice drawing with your pens first. So in the printmaking, you would be using a tool to inscribe these lines, and you would inscribe the lines on the plate and incise the lines into the plate, and then the ink is pressed down into those lines, which is fun. It's a fun technique. So I actually prefer, I don't draw like this a lot these days because I prefer to draw like this when I'm making a print. So the face comes down and the face is not flat. I'm going to use my number 2 again. The number 2, like I said, the number 2 is running out of ink. So just remember that. Your lines won't be as broken if you have a new pen. So I'm going to let a shadow be cast here, and here. The shadows. As a matter of fact, I'll start sketching in this shadow with hash marks. It's going to come here to describe this jawbone, and this is where the face turns under. I try to keep my marks going in the same direction if I can. To describe, it's almost like I'm touching the face. Now I can actually use a heavier, and I will use a heavier pen. I may not use the number 2 anymore since it's really rough now. But I'm going to go back to my number 3. If you touch your jaw, feel your jawbone as it folds under here, you see that that's round. That's a round edge. It's not a sharp edge. And what I want to do, I'm going to do something else to this line, but I'm not going there yet. I want to flatten this out.
Your hand's in the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, the chin. I'm going to flatten the chin out before I go back and do that. Now I'm going to go back and make this line darker. I think I'll crosshatch. So you're making decisions, and with ink, it's unforgivable. So you make mistakes, and then the secret is in solving problems. Well, in all of art, the secret is not that you don't make mistakes, but it's that you solve the problems. I turn my hand over, you see, so that I can make my marks in the direction I want to. So my hand was like this, then I turned it over. When I got to this area here, I'm going to do some more hatch marks. I want it to be even darker. I'm going to put as many hash marks on this picture as possible. So there's actually a muscle that comes down like this on the neck. And so there's a indentation or separation between where this jaw bone folds behind the ear and where the neck, the actual neck is. So I'm going to put some shadows there, and I'm going to crosshatch. So this area I'm drawing now, it's going to be darker. In fact, the person's shoulder is here. So you can see, and his clavicle would be around in here somewhere. Or his, what do they call the clavicle? Shoulder bone or something like that? Whatever. Chest bone. Collarbone. Yeah, collarbone. So you see, you're looking down from the top. Now, a little trick that I like to do, it's not really a trick, but I'm not taking this shading to the point I want it yet, because I want to do this, I want to shade that, and I want this part to be slightly darker. I'm going to go and get a number 1 pen. Notice my hand is not touching the paper. So I'm imagining I'm touching under that skin that's underneath his chin. I'm going to crosshatch. Get some blotches again. These pens, I guess these pens are well used. Just so now I can go back with my number 3 and do my cross hatching on this part of the neck. And remember, when you cross hatch, you go in a different direction every time you put a hatch mark on there. I'm barely touching the paper now, as you can see. And I am using the side of the point, which with these type of pens, you're not to do that. These are drafting pens and not actually drawing pens. Drawing pens have a quill. They have a quill. They are harder to control. I'm sure they make some new ones now. I'm old school with everything. But you would dip the pen in an ink well, sort of like a calligraphy pen. I like the drafting pens for practice. If I was going to make a pen and ink drawing, I would probably go to the traditional. But what we're doing, this suffices. And many people like these pens. They are easier to control. But what I like about the pen and ink is you actually control the flow of the ink out of the pen. I'm going to go to my dark, I have a chance to go to a wider tip. So I'm going to a number 5. The shape of these shadows are very important. So I hope that you notice my lines. I don't know if you can hear my puppy, but he wants to be fed. We didn't go to the studio today because of the ice warning and all that stuff. And so we didn't know if we would get caught in snow. So I'm in my drawing, my library. So my puppy is here. My puppy is trying to get us to do something. I don't know if you can hear him or not, but if you hear him, he's supposed to get fed by now. He tells us what to do. He don't let us forget nothing. So I'm just putting all this in shadow here. This line here is very important. So I'm going to make that line a little wider. So what I do every day is paint. I don't draw that much except for my paintings these days. I used to draw a lot, awful lot more, but my visions seem to be realized in paint. I do have one large drawing I want to do, which would take me forever if I get started. I'm not sure how much I'm going to do it, so that's why I haven't started it. I'm going back to the number one. I'm just going to try to fold some shapes under, follow the turn of the face, of the head. And to add some little detail, this is the number one. And the forehead turns back like this. No, okay, I'm sorry. Forward turns back like that. So I'm drawing the way I believe the figure is turning. So sometimes I'm thinking of shadow, sometimes I'm thinking of surface. When I do this crosshatch, I'm thinking more of shadow. Then this area here flattens out a little bit. This is at your own discretion. These marks on the face, you really have to decide, you know, what am I trying to do? And I've been saying lately, do it your way. I'm just showing you some basic techniques to help you get started, but do it your way. Here's the cheekbone. So face turns, the cheeks comes out and face turns back down into the jawbone and the chin area. So it's not receiving as much light. And the place where the cheekbone turns under don't receive as much light either. I should have told you kids not even to do this part because it's really delicate. It's kind of like you have to have sort of like fidelity. You have to be very careful. I think I was holding my breath. Try not to hold your breath when you do this. Don't be afraid to mess up. It's okay to mess up. We're just practicing. It's art class. So I'm showing the light hitting this part of the face and less light hitting this part. In fact, I'm going to put all this in like an intermediate shadow to make it obvious. I'm going to my very thin pinpoint. See if this will help. Oh, no, it's not. So back to the number one. And let me say something. If you find yourself getting real close to the picture, tell yourself to relax and sit back. Because when you're not relaxed, you tense up and you don't have the control that you're looking for. We're almost done. I've told myself no matter what, I'm not going to get any new pens because these pens are running out of ink. So I've given myself a problem, and art, like I said before, is problem solving. If I solve that problem by giving myself limitations, then this art will speak. It will have something to say. Because now all of a sudden, I'm trying to use a visual language to express something. So the easy way out is not always the best way out when doing art. You set yourself some parameters, and that will force you I'm just going to let those lines go up like that. And what I really want to do, and I may end up doing it, I'm going to go ahead and do that. At this stage of the game, at this point, I'm going to get the number one or maybe the number two again. Get the number two. That was the number one. I want to do something pretty bold. I want to barely touch the paper and make some marks across this white space. So right now, all of a sudden, I've decided to make this about drawing with ink and not just about this is a man. And I try to explain that to my students, especially the students who are advancing. You know, what is the material you're using? Why are you using it? That's also a part of the art. I'm just thinking about the shape of the face that I want in here. I'm deciding how I want the eye, what I want the person, the viewer's eye to see, and what the eye is going to do. And so you see it's getting looser because my style is pretty loose. I'm going to shade in the background a little bit. Now my style of art is additive. My techniques are all additive. So you see me adding more than taking away, no matter what medium I'm using. And especially with lines, I always want to add more lines. It's just who I am. I'm going to get the I need a heavier pen. I know it's about time to finish. Draw some darker lines up here. So this point is wider, broader, thicker. So more ink is flowing out. So it's going to make heavier lines. I'm thinking about curly hair, basically. How the hair might fold around and under. Put a shadow there. This is called a drop shadow. Put a drop shadow here. Accentuate this one. the areas that I want to do. I'm finishing up. I get the number 5, but sorry, the number 3. So I'm very interested in how this face is turning. We're going to stop right there. I think that you have an idea of what we're doing. You can use these same techniques with landscape painting, any type of drawing. Use techniques with pencil. The book or drawings by C. Etcher, I suggest you look him up and you see what I mean about folio prints and why I'm really piling up my crosshatching here. I really like that book. It's a book of masterpiece. And the etches is a book on etching. He's using these same techniques that I'm using here. All right, well, thank you for joining me. And this number 3 is out of ink now, so I'll put that away. So just practice drawing with your pen. Splash Kids that you don't have these type of pens, but I think I put a pen in your kit, just a regular ink pen. So you would practice with a regular ink pen first. I probably gave you a gel pen, and gel pens make some beautiful dark lines. Practice with that first, and then at some point get you a pen set, or at some point Splash will get you a pen, depending on our funding. We love for you to have all the supplies that you need. Remember to put your name on it, on your picture, and your age. Okay, see you next time, and remember, art is for everyone. Bye-bye.